boys and girls, it's Miss Pacelle. We are going to be dividing some decimals by whole numbers. We're going to be using some models to do this. So I want you to notice that we are working with our decimal grids. So our decimal grids are broken up into little squares, and each square is 1/100th of the large square, and the large square is one whole. So there are 100 of the little squares, just like that, 100 of them. If you look, there are 10 hundredths in each row, and there are 10 hundredths in each column. So 10 hundredths, we already know, working with decimals, make one whole. And we know that 10 hundredths make 1/10, and we know that 10 tenths make one whole. So we've worked with these decimal grids with fractions, and as we know, fractions and decimals are ways that we can name equivalent numbers. So I'm going to stop here and not review anymore with how the decimal grids work because we've worked with them. So we're dividing 9/10ths into 3 equal groups. So if these models were just blank decimal grid models and nothing was shaded on them, we would have to shade the dividend 9/10ths. It's already done for us. So it's already shaded. So I'm looking at 9/10ths. We can see it's close to one whole, but not quite. And we're going to divide it into 3 equal parts. So if we think of this, we're dividing 9/10ths into 3 equal parts. So 9 divided by 3 we know is 3. And so we should have an answer. There should be 3/10ths in this, 3 groups of 3/10ths in this model. Okay, so our answer should be, because we're working with tenths, should be 3/10ths. All right, so let's check it out. You just need a pencil for this. So I'm going to break 9/10ths into equal groups of 3, and I think it's 3/10ths. So 3/10ths would be 3 columns, 30 hundredths or 3/10ths. Here would be our second group of 3/10ths. And right here would be our third group of 3/10ths. So you can see right here the 3 groups of 3/10ths. So yes, we're absolutely correct. All right, let's look at number 2. We're dividing 1 and 2/10ths. We can already see one whole model shaded, 2/10ths. So our dividend 1 and 2/10ths, we're dividing it into 4 equal groups, and we want to know how much is in each group. So let's just see if we can figure that out before we use the model. So 1 and 2/10ths is really 12 tenths. There are 12 columns. So 12 tenths divided by 4 equal groups would give me 3/10ths in each group. I'm working with tenths. All right, let's see if that's true. Let me see if my answer is 3/10ths. All right, so one group of 3/10ths would look like this, 3 columns. A second group, a third group of 3/10ths. Now notice my last group is going to have to go across to the second model. I only have one group of, I only have 1/10 left, but I've got 2/10ths here. So here's another group. And then I can clearly see that, yes, there are 4 groups of what I thought the quotient was going to be. There are 4 groups of 3/10ths in 1 and 2/10ths. All right, let's look at another one. We have a model. Oh, this time it's broken into hundredths. There are 25 of these hundredths shaded, and we're going to divide it into 5 equal groups, and I want to know how many hundredths are in each group. So my answer is going to be hundredths. I can see that already. So I have 25 hundredths divided by 5, so my answer should be 5 hundredths. Oops. All right, 5 hundredths. Let's check it out. If I look at the first 5 and put a ring around it, and I have another group of 5 hundredths, another group of 5 hundredths, and so on until I've looked at all my groups, and here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 5 hundredths. So there's my answer. 5 groups of 5 hundredths are in 25 hundredths. All right, number 4, our dividend is 24 hundredths, so it's already been shaded for us. We're going to break 24 hundredths into 8 equal groups. So 24 hundredths divided by 8 should be 3 hundredths in each group. Okay, So let's see if that is true. So if I break it into 8 equal groups, I have 1 group, 2 groups, 3. I got to do a little creativity there. 4 groups, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yes, 8 groups of 300ths give me 24 hundredths that I started with. So my answer is going to be 3 hundredths. All right, let's just do a couple more. I think these are pretty easy, but you really have to think about what you're doing, and you have to change that whole number over to its equivalent number of tenths or hundredths. So 1 4/10, I know that that is 14 tenths, and I know that because 1 whole is 10 tenths, and then I have 4 tenths. So 14 tenths divided into 2 equal groups. So knowing my basic fact, 14 divided by 2 equals 7 is going to help me, and I'm splitting up 14 tenths, so my answer is going to be 7 tenths. All right, let's check it. Oops. Let's check it out, 7 tenths. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right here is my first group of 7 tenths. My second group of 7 tenths, I have 3 in my first model and 4 tenths in my next model. So it's kind of split across 2 models, but there you see the 2 groups of 7 tenths. So that is correct. 1 4/10 divided by 2 equals 7 tenths. All right, 1 8/10 divided by 3. This is the same thing as 18 tenths divided by 3. And our basic fact that we know is 18 divided by 3 equals 6. So my answer should be 6 tenths. All right, so let's see if we're correct. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns give me 6 tenths. There's one group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have to go across the 2 models to be able to circle my second group of 6 tenths. And that leaves me one group of 6 tenths here. So there are the 3 groups, and we were correct. All right. So we're going to go ahead and finish this one up. Just make sure we've got a firm grasp on how we use models to divide decimal numbers into equal groups of whole numbers. So decimals divided by whole numbers. Number 7, we have 2 wholes divided by 4. So I'm going to look at these 2 wholes as tenths. All right. So if we that would be 20 tenths. And if we divide 20 tenths into 4 groups, and I know it's 20 tenths because there's 10 tenths in one whole, and I have 2 wholes. So 20 divided by 4 would be 5 tenths. Okay, let's check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here would be my first group of 5 tenths. My second group of 5 tenths. My third group, and my fourth group. So here are my 4 groups of 5 tenths. So I divided 2 wholes into 4 equal groups. Each one of those groups has 5 tenths in it. And the last one takes us back to working with some hundredths. I have 21 hundredths represented here. I'm dividing it into 7 equal groups. So 21 hundredths divided by 7 should be 3 hundredths. Okay, let's check it out with our model. So we're going to circle groups of 3 hundredths, and there should be 7 of them. So right here's one, another one, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and right here is the 7th group. Each one of those, I have 7 groups of 3 hundredths that are 21 hundredths. All right. So dividing decimals with whole numbers, what I notice when I divide my decimals by whole numbers is that my answer is always going to be less than my dividend. And that's because I'm taking that dividend, splitting it into equal groups, smaller equal groups, wanting to know how many's in it. So that's a good number sense way to check that your answer is reasonable. All right, boys and girls, you have a couple problems you're going to work on your own. Um, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you soon.